Everybody, good evening. Welcome to PatFacts. Patrick here from Pat on Your Back Personal Fitness. Very pleased today to have a special guest, one of my bearded brothers here. We have Blake Miles. He's part of the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise program, and he's a freedom coach. So maybe, Blake, if you want to just hop in here and explain to everyone what a freedom coach would do, what that entails.
Absolutely. Freedom, I define freedom as the absence of the negativity in our life. So the main ones I cover are, of course, financial freedom, but also physical freedom, which is, having good health, especially flexibility. I'm big in teaching people flexibility. A lot of people laugh about stretching, but the fact is stretching, as you know, as a trainer, is flexibility is one of the only things we have control over as humans. The other factors like power, strength, they will decline over time, and we're somewhat helpless as time goes on. But flexibility, literally, we only lose it if we let it go. So I teach people that. That's a great way to have freedom, physical freedom in your life, and health, nutrition, emotional freedom, mental freedom, which is mindset, having a positive mindset, having a positive outlook on things, emotional freedom, which has a lot to do with love and relationships, and feeling good about the world and feeling good about yourself, and also time freedom, which is when people underestimate. And when I say it, people go, time freedom. And yet if I then immediately ask them, what's the biggest problem in your life right now, apart from the fact that you don't feel you have enough money? And they say, oh, I don't have enough time. So, yeah, pretty self-explanatory. And spiritual freedom, which is when everyone goes, I'm not talking about religion. Spirituality is really described as understanding our true self. And that's one freedom we all have had stripped away from us. Every day of our lives, we're putting on more masks, trying to comply with, the political correctness and societal standards, and less of our true self emerges all the time. We worry about what people think, worry about what we say, and it's getting worse and worse with people being so offended by everything. And so it's very hard to strike a balance where you can function in society, but feel good, feel like I'm me, I am myself. And there are some wonderful people out there who just say, forget it, this is me, take me or leave me. Unfortunately, most of those people are lunatics. And so they really do kind of deter us from being ourselves. Going to think, well, I don't want to be like that. But true spiritual freedom is really finding out what you're all about, who you really are inside. And then by pulling that out and putting it up against the societal standards, you can create a balance of somebody that people would like to know. And part of the reason is because you do fall within the societal standards and the acceptable practices, but there's a little something else, a little something more about you because your real self is there. And so people say, hey, I'm attracted to that. So those are the very specific freedoms, but all in all, it's just basically learning the skills and the tools and the practices to allow you to live the life that you want to live, doing what you want to do, when you want to do it, with who you want to do it, for as long as you possibly can, because that is actually the true definition of a successful life. So that's how I define freedom, and that's what I coach.
Awesome. I love all that stuff. And as everyone has probably heard me talk about, and something I see a lot with clients, I'm sure you have too, and you kind of touched on it a bit, is no one ever has the time. I don't have the time to get this. I can't get this in because I don't have the time. Right now, we all have the time because of what's going on. I'm just wondering if you have any tips or any suggestions of how people can look at their time and make sure that they're making the most use of their time, or how to maybe budget their time to have that time freedom that you're sort of talking of.
Well, I've seen a lot of memes on the internet saying, turns out not enough time wasn't the reason. And that's all very clever, and that does invite us to slap ourselves in the face a little bit and go, yeah, okay, that's true. Because, let's face it, some of us have nearly unlimited time, more time than we probably care to have right now. And yeah, we're not really changing the trajectory of our lives. Nothing's really changing. We did not jump on that big fitness program we were going to get on if we'd had the time. We have the time, no program. But, I don't want to sit here and smack people around and tell them off for their shortcomings and everything else. What I want to invite people to realize is that not having enough time and having a whole lot of time are very similar, because when our time is restricted, we become overwhelmed. And we say, well, where on earth can I fit that little thing in? And yeah, lots of successful people say, well, one night when you got a few minutes, you do a few push-ups or sit-ups or whatever it is. And then the next night you do a few more. And then you build it up. And eventually you get so into what you're doing that you just make the time. You just wedge that time in. And then people see what you're doing. Your family sees you and they become supportive. So they help you make the time. And that's a very great way to do it. But not everybody can. Some of us want to know the time is there before we take the action. And it's not very nice of us to condemn those people and say, nope, that's not how you do it. I've never been a person to subscribe to that, the best way. The best way is the way that works for you. The best way is the way that's going to have you showing up all the time enthusiastically. And so you got to do it your way. You got to figure it out. And so the same thing happens when we have a bunch of time, because now that we went from not enough time to, let's face it, too much time. So now we still have that lack of direction, that lack of focus. And instead of, well, I've got all these things to do and not enough time. I've got all this time and not that many things to do. And we just don't know. Plus, we're caught up in just wondering. And it's too tempting to open the news and watch that and figure out what's going on or whatever instead. Some people may be job hunting. They may be looking for, work somewhere where people are still hiring, or they're trying to figure out something online, learn some online skills, something like that. So they're busy worrying about their destiny, their career, their futures, whatever it is. And so they're just as busy. It's just that now they're filling a larger amount of time with a larger amount of duties or whatever, and they haven't been able to become any more focused on that thing they were going to do. So what you really need to do is, when you look at your schedule, set up 3 priorities and make one of them you. I don't care what the other 2 are. That's none of my business. That's up to you. If bring in some money is one of your priorities, hey, I understand. And I understand that right now that's probably a higher priority than get fit, stay healthy. It shouldn't be, but it's okay if it is. Okay, you're a human being. I understand, because where the money's coming in has to do with everybody's health. If you're a parent, you've got a family, you got kids, you got other people to worry about. Not just, am I going to be healthy? Do I get enough food? I got to feed everybody. So you have responsibilities, and that's great. And I'm not going to join the memes and posters and pokes and everything that are making fun of you because you're trying to look out for your family, which means that even with a big plethora of time, you're still struggling to find time for you. No, I'm not going to do that. But what I am going to invite you to do is make sure that one of the categories up there in your priority list is you. And I will remind you of, we've all heard it, but it never ever gets old. It always bears repeating. When there's an emergency on the plane, right, and those masks come down, put yours on first, because if you're not able to take care of you, you're not going to help anybody. So yes, you're prioritizing your family's needs. Yes, you're prioritizing the income, the groceries, whatever. But if something happens to you, who's going to take over prioritizing and doing all of that? Your family might be struggling and even in rough sorts with you taking some time to keep yourself healthy, not putting 100% of your attention onto the groceries and the bills and the whatever. But they're going to be lost completely if you're not there at all. So do you want to put 90% of your time to dealing with that, or 0% of your time to that? I know that hurts. That's tough love, but it's because I understand what you're doing and I respect and admire the person that you are, but you've got to wedge out a little bit of time to recharge your battery. Because if you don't, the great, heroic, noble thing that you're doing is going to fall apart. That's why there's policies right now in hospitals, certain shifts, certain amount of time. There's some incredibly brave heroes out there right now, putting their neck on the line to get a cure, to get treatments, to get us through this. And they're at risk all the time. And their bosses are telling them, you're done, off, cycle off, cycle off. Because if we lose you, we lose it all. We lose everything. And that's the important thing. When you're a hero, you have to understand you're not Hercules, you're not Superman, you're a mortal human hero. And so you have got to recharge, you've got to rebuild and be ready, because your heroics will be lost if you are. And that's how serious I want you to make your time and the way you allot your time. I want you to wake up every morning and say, I'm a hero. And halfway through the day, go back to the mirror again and go, I'm a tired hero. So I need to take a break now because there's more heroics to do and I must be alive and well to do them. So more of a philosophy than a tip, but I hope you can translate that into some steps in the day, because I really think it's the mindset more than an inability to find the time. I'm sure you can find 15 or 20 minutes in your day to take care of you, take a walk, take a bath, take more time for your meal so you eat more healthy, do a little bit of a workout. There's so many workouts available online. Take your 20 minutes when that shows up. Here's my 20 minutes because it's the 20 minutes that the thing I like is on. Boom, you've done it. I'm sure you can find the time. It's the mindset that's preventing you, in my opinion, because you know you're a hero and you know you're a superhero. And unfortunately, even though you're mortal, you've got the superhero cape and tights on, and it gives you the false sense that you're invincible. And you're not. You're irreplaceable, but you're not invincible. Take the time to recharge so that you can keep being the hero.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that at the end too. You're irreplaceable, not immortal. That's so important to think of, and a great way to look at it and frame it. And again, I've been speaking. It's like our beards have been talking. I've been speaking so much about recovery the last probably week and a half or so in my workout videos and here as well, because it's in the fitness field. It's so overlooked, yet it's probably the most important part of a workout program. We need the recovery time. Our body needs to adapt to what we do to it, to get stronger, to be more fluid, to move more with a functional pattern, to store movements in your brain that you're learning in different skills. And again, it's the same idea. If you're taking care of yourself, giving yourself that recovery time, or making time for you, making yourself the priority, you're going to benefit that much more, and those around you will benefit that much more because you're at a higher level of performance and a lower level of stress and feeling better. So that's all going to rub off on them by example, but also they'll get more from you because you'll have more put into it. So again, I've tried to suggest as well, make yourself that priority first. Book yourself in just like you would a doctor's appointment or a dentist appointment, whatever. Put in your time, like Blake said, just you time, even whatever that is. Make yourself that priority. So it's but I really love that you're not immortal but irreplaceable. That's such a good way to look at it and really put it in perspective for people. Because again, you all are heroes. You're looking after kids, you're looking after families, you're looking after colleagues. But again, you need to turn that kind of logo around, that superhero logo, that bat signal is going to turn back at you a little bit and look after yourself so that you can take care of everybody else. That's great. I really love that. That's a good way to look at things.
Well, you know, I have a client who actually, they have 5 kids, and those 5 kids are all at home all the time now. And they reached out to me, and, you know, it's funny, when they reached out, I said, you don't even have to explain why you're reaching out. I know what this call's about, you know. And they said, how am I ever supposed to find time to, you know, to exercise, to give myself some exercise? I just want to do, you know, say half an hour of cardio. But, you know, I'm not making an excuse when I say I don't have the time. I said, of course. And I said, I believe no one's making an excuse. You know, I really don't. There's a reason why we're avoiding it, and it's not just an excuse. There's a more important thing behind it, and it's time for us all to understand. When people say, you know, I can't do it, or I'm not doing it, or stop saying you're procrastinating, you're putting it off. That doesn't help anybody. Help them find out what's preventing them. So I asked her, I said, well, apart from your kids and the time, what is it that's preventing you from etching out that half hour? And she said, because there's 5 of them. Here's the breakdown of time, you know, and there's only 24 hours on the clock. And of course, there's only 12 hours on her clock, and she needs, you know, 10 to 12 hours of sleep. She did manage to make it so she's getting, you know, she literally is getting 10, 11 hours of sleep at night, which was absolutely just, you know, vital. Everybody should be looking at that right now, but certainly mother of 5 needs to be doing that. But that means her day's cut in half in terms of, you know, active time. So I said, you know, give me a typical day. So she spelled out how these kids have got her running around. And I said, well, if the kids have got you running around that much, maybe all we need to do is make the running around after the kids less distress and more eustress. Look at the time with the kids as the exercise time, because those kids range in age from infant to preteen. But you're talking about a lot of energy, and dealing with those kids is a bit of an aerobic activity unto itself. But unfortunately, when it's the source of stress, distress, it's not going to help us. It's not going to help us aerobically. It's not going to boost us. It's going to be negative. But she adores her children. So I said, look, why don't we get the endorphins going? Why don't we get the positivity going? Let's lock these kids into some activities. Let's make them physical activities. The nice weather's coming, so so let's get some outdoor in the yard. Let's get start breaking it down. Then you're being the hero mom that I know you are. But while you're doing it, unbeknownst to the kids, unbeknownst even to you in a way, you're building your cardio aerobic program. So I'm delighted to report she sent me a little chart that she had put together. And she's looking at around 1 to 3 hours a day of cardio and aerobic activity now. And as you said, this is what triggered the thought, is that not only is she doing it, but they're doing it. She's establishing this for her kids. They're getting great exercise, and they're seeing these habits, and they're seeing the positivity. They're seeing the joy in their mom, and they know they're partly responsible for it, instead of spending the next few days, weeks, however long, feeling responsible for her pain and her anguish. Now they know they're responsible for her joy. They're part of it. They're part of the activity. And she is setting an example and setting a mindset for them about exercise and activity that's going to stick with them for a very, very long time. So she went from hero to superhero, but she's still taking care of herself. So there's just one example of how you can do it. And that's that shift in mindset. But I also like to say, because we're talking about exercise, turn distress into eustress. And I'll let the trainer explain what the difference between those things is. But it's just people don't realize there's two types of stress. Not all stress is bad. Some stress is good. And that's the stress the exertion we put upon ourselves in exercise. That's the best. That's the good stress. And we need to take the bad stress and channel it. And right now is a great time to do it, because we do have lots of little energy demons running around our home who can show us the way to a really fun, effective, and long cardio and aerobic output. I don't have my little ones with me. Oddly enough, they're almost always with me. Now they're not. So I'm a reverse story. But I have my 11-month-old dog, my little puppy, who's 100 and something pounds and full of energy and dives in the air. And he wants to be walked several hundred times a day. And so I let him set the pace. Off we go. And I'm pretty sure I'm burning about 3-4 pounds a week at this point. So
nice. And yeah, that's all part of it. And thinking of strategies and ways that you can incorporate into what you're already doing. So like the example with the mom and you with the puppy, you have to take the puppy for walks. It needs to get out. It needs to burn that energy. The kids need to move around and jump around. So incorporate that. That all counts. I've even talked with clients about things to do around the house, yard work, gardening, cleaning the house, spring cleaning your room, or doing a big purge of things. That's physical activity. Maybe it's not always strenuous like exercise, but it's still activity. It's still moving the body. It's using the body, the heart, the muscles. That all counts as kind of that activity bank filling up.
And it's also retraining the brain that wants to sit, the brain that wants to put its feet up. It's retraining your mind about the joy of getting up, moving around, and getting something done.
That's right.
And next thing you know, you can turn anything into exercise. Yeah, yard work doesn't burn calories. Well, it does if you do it the right way. Anything can be turned into exercise. And there's nothing better than just a good brisk walk. And if you walk with purpose and you walk with someone you care for, be they human, canine, or otherwise, then you're not even going to realize that you're improving your health. You're just going to be having fun. And you're improving your health too. As you're improving your body, you're improving your mind. Next thing you know, everything's hunky-dory. You're feeling good. You're optimistic. You're not afraid. And your life's going better, and you're thinking, just from walking the dog? Yeah, look up the science.
Yeah. And then you want to walk the dog because you're having those good feelings and you're having that
Right.
enjoyment and that pleasure factor, and you're feeling better and your genes feel a little better, whatever, you feel those things, and that motivates you to keep going and
You
keep doing
stop
the
being addicted
activities.
to sugar and start getting addicted to dog walks.
That's right. Exactly. And even little things like moving your arm, like you said, walk with a purpose. Don't just stroll. Go for a good walk. Swing the arms, get the legs going. That gets you moving. Little things like when we can go back, park
And
at
then
the end.
once a week, just stroll.
Yes.
Once a week, just stroll.
Yeah.
Just don't
Take
put
that.
any pressure on yourself. Make it a stroll. You got a
Yeah.
really nice warm evening. That sunset's about to hit.
Hmm.
Just go for the stroll. The
Yeah.
other 6 days, you can push your limits.
Yeah. And maybe that's a night too where you stop and enjoy the sunset. And you take in that nature and you breathe a little bit and just unwind and just take everything in. And that's your mental health break, as well as the physical and the spiritual. All these things tie into each other. So they're very important and influence each other. So the more we can do those little things, that makes a well complete package. And that's what we want to have, is be a complete package, not just strong one area and weaken everything else. We want everything that could be at such a high level. So we want to keep those factors in mind. But again, it just takes little things. And I've talked a bit before here about combining activities. If you have, we talk about goal setting and having a big goal you're looking to work towards to make you better. If you have 2 or 3 goals, like I mentioned, maybe you can combine a couple of those goals. So maybe if one of your goals is to spend more time with your kids and to be more active, with Blake's example, you just combine 2 goals into one. So that's a little less overwhelmed feeling because you're getting a couple things done at the same time rather than having to check off 5 different things. Now you've got 3 because 2 of them are kind of combined into one. So you've just got the other ones to look at. So there's all kinds of different ways to sort this out and look through it. There's not just, like Blake said, one way for everyone. Everyone works a little differently. Everyone responds to different things. And like I've mentioned as well, and I'm sure Blake will attest, find a thing that works best for you. It's going to take some tinkering and some trying. And again, we've talked about plan A's and plan B's and having backups. And maybe you're going this way, but you should be going this way. I talk about consistency and patience. That's what we need. Make your plan, be consistent with it, give it a try, and then be patient with it. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time. You've got to untrain yourself, maybe some of the bad habits, retrain the good ones. Like Blake said, you'll maybe lose that sugar or bad food addiction and get a little more addicted to that physical activity. So give yourself the patience and the understanding that if it's not working, let's tweak it. Let's try this version instead of this version and see where things go from there. So it really is a big process to work through. So maybe if we can